Lync Server 2010 provides the ability to do DNS load balancing. It makes it really easy for you to create high availability. So for the SIP protocol, you can actually create multiple DNS records to handle traffic for one pool name. So like we're looking at here, we have in our topology an enterprise edition front-end pool. So pool.interfaceTTlabs.com is really just a logical name for two independent Lync servers. So Lync 1 and Lync 2. So I've added the second Lync server to this pool. And if we look at DNS and our internal zone here for interfaceTTlabs.com, we have one pool record. That's the one I've been using all along. That 192.168.3.40, that actually points to Lync server 1. So in order to create redundancy for this, essentially all you do is add that server to the pool. And this works with front-end pools. You can do this with mediation pools. You can do it with edge pools. You can do it with director pools. All right, but this is our main infrastructure where people will be signing in and registering at. But basically what you do here is 3.40 is Lync server 1. I'll create another one, pool. Whoops. Pool, make sure I spell it right. So this would be 192.168.3.45. That's the IP address of the second server, Lync 2, that's in that pool. So the nice thing is I can just create independent DNS records. And this isn't really necessarily DNS load balancing, because what happens is the client initially will query all of the DNS records for the pool. So in this case, pool, there's one record for 3.40 and one for 3.45. So he'll basically build a list upon querying DNS and essentially use some intelligence to loop through that list. And eventually you'll have a good even distribution of signed in users across all of those pool members. And if one server were to fail, the client software would figure it out and get you signed into a server that was actually online. So there are some other things that DNS load balancing won't cover. If we go back into the topology, for example, an edge pool, if you had an edge pool, in this case, we just have a single computer pool, but if we had a pool with multiple machines and you were doing federation with like an OCS 2007 R2, it's up to responsibility of the other endpoint to query your DNS records. So that older version of the software doesn't have the intelligence built in. So if you have partners that you're federating with an older version like OCS 2007 R2, you'd want to use a hardware load balancer in this case because their software isn't intelligent enough to realize there's multiple DNS records out there that should be load balanced. From a front-end pool perspective, there's also some other things. Let's go into the properties here and take a look. Specifically, it boils down to your web services. Now, based on our current setup, if we look at our web services URL is going to default to the pool name. So pool.interfaceTTlabs.com. And essentially, all the HTTP or HTTPS traffic is not going to use DNS load balancing. When I hit the web server, I need to maintain my connections with whichever server I first connect to. And we can only load balance the SIP protocol with DNS load balancing. So if you had a pool of front-end servers, you would have to override that internal web services FQDN, and that would need to resolve to a load balanced virtual IP address. So you could get away with just doing one physical load balancer and one VIP or virtual IP address on that load balancer that resolved to a load balanced address that would spread HTTPS connections across all the servers in your pool and basically take any down servers out of the equation. So you will have to mix some physical load balancing to get a complete high availability type of solution. But essentially you would just override the FQDN here, make sure that this DNS record out there resolves to a virtual IP address that's load balanced, and then you're good to go. Just say okay to this and republish your topology.